The passage of time. We have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your healthcare needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in healthcare.
Our first item today is the approval of the official agenda. I think we have some items that we will put on consent. Mr. McLaurin, if you will list them.
Mr. Mayor and Board, for your consideration tonight for possible inclusion on the consent agenda, we have the following recommendations. Page 2, items E, F, and G under Board Business. Page 3, airport items 1 and 2, but item 2, if you will change the payment amount to include the amount of the change order mentioned in item 1, so the new total on the final payment request would be $4,676.20. $4,676.20. So with that change, both of those two items recommended for consent. City Clerk's Office, item 2. Electric Department, item 1. Page 4. All the items on page 4. Page 5, Public Services, items 1 and 2.
Any additions or deletions?
D on board business was a deletion.
Yeah, that's correct. D on board business is a takeout, deletion, okay?
Delete the entire item we're talking about, huh?
That's right.
Okay. Thank you.
And do we have a second for those consent items?
Second.
Yeah. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And now we ask for, that's including the approval of the other items on the agenda, was that right? Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. Announcements by the mayor and the board. First of all, I'd like to welcome some new police officers tonight. Terrence Hampton, Officer Terrence Hampton, and Officer William Knowles and Will O.
Mayor, I got taken off the agenda, I'm not sure which one you read, but we were gonna present them next time when they were.
Okay, well, I'm just adding that we have hired these gentlemen, and they'll be here at our next board meeting, is that correct? Okay, very good. Rodney, I think you had something to say, and then I'll say something about fireworks.
Okay, all right. On the Sturgis Bike Rally, there's been a change on the Saturday night. Entertainment, it will be Merle Haggard instead of Terry Clark. So I went to a meeting Saturday, 4-hour meeting Saturday morning about that, so just wanted to let y'all know about that. And I also went to the MML conference this past week in Biloxi, and it was very good. I learned a lot of information, very useful information. So I thank the citizens for letting me go to that.
Merle Haggard coming fresh from a stellar performance at the Beau Rivage. That's the same week.
Y'all gonna get me excited after a while.
This coming Friday night, we'll have a fireworks display at the Sportsplex on Lynn Lane. It'll begin at 9 o'clock. I think it'll be possibly dark enough at that time for the fireworks to show up very well. At this time, it's time for our citizens' comments. Anyone who would like to gripe or complain about the city, you've got your 3 minutes.
Or Mayor, say something positive about the city.
Well, it's a good public forum for someone to get up to say something.
Alvin?
You're on later, now you know that.
No, I'm up now too. I got 3 minutes. I would like to comment tonight on Sharon Boyd's budget request. And I'm going to read a short paragraph. So the Starkville Beautification Committee would like to go on record as supporting Ms. Sharon Boyd's budget request. As you well know, she is the head of the Department of Sanitation. You may also recall that 2 years ago she brought a similar proposal wherein she requested the purchase of a MAD vac machine for litter collection. She has included this item in her budget again, and she will present that later on tonight, and we would like to go on record as recommending that y'all approve this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Anyone else? You not gonna say anything tonight?
Still gonna have it.
You know,
So don't say nothing to say.
all right, we'll move on. We have several public appearances tonight, and Richard, we will start with you and Ben Bounds to present the proposal for the recommendations from the Board of the Beautification Committee. Which I might add is really a very active board, is it not? Yeah, the Beautification Committee.
Tammy.
You can rest on the way on them.
Yeah, thank
It's okay, I'll get them in.
Yeah, based on what is there. $35 per day for the students. We just get more than 25 that we presently pay, but they transport them to and from in all the amount of time. Yes, and so.
All right, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
Okay, I have given each of you a copy of what I'm going to go ahead and present for the record, please, ma'am. Please, sir, ladies and gentlemen. Presentation of the Mayor and Board of Alderman, July the 1st, 2008. This concerns Highway 82, also known as Martin Luther King Drive, and formerly Highway 82. And this has been neglected by Mississippi Department of Agriculture, Transportation for decades. The road is not maintained in a timely fashion, and currently is in a state of disrepair. It is not mowed on a regular basis, and when it is, the paper and other trash is not picked up prior to mowing, which results in multiplication of litter. In other words, where you had one piece of paper and you've got a bush hog runs on the top of it, now you've got 3 pieces of paper. At the corner of 182 and Old Westport Road, there's a pole which is supported at one time a historical marker. This marker has been missing for several years and it's gone wherever historical markers go. I don't know where they go, but that's wherever it is. And now the remaining pole is surrounded by a clump of yucca and Johnson grass. And this is what greets visitors and residents as they drive west on Old 82 and Martin Luther King Boulevard Drive. This needs to be corrected. Additionally, the sidewalks from Old Westport Road to North Montgomery have not been maintained for some time, as seen by the grass and litter on the sidewalks. The street needs to be swept on a regular basis to prevent soil, gravel, and sand and other litter accumulation. We also acknowledge that some property or business owners are lacking in their responsibility in keeping their area or their property free of litter and other debris, which thereby contributes to so-called blighted area. We request that the city contact each property owner along this route and remind them that there are ordinances requiring them to maintain their property. And with the above in mind, we strongly recommend that the Mayor and Board of Aldermen immediately initiate a dialogue between the Mississippi Department of Transportation, the Greater Starkville Development Partnership, the City Beautification Committee, Starkville in Motion, Starkville Young Professionals, and other interested parties to develop a plan to improve Highway 82 within the city limits. And the first thing that McLaurin is going to say, well, you have to read today's editorial in the paper about MDOT having no money. Well, you didn't read that, right?
Yes, I did.
I'm sure you would. Well, this has been going on.
Want to increase the gas tax, they do.
They've been doing this, this has been like this for 50 years. I came here in 1970, it hadn't changed a bit since then. It was there, when Ms. Self and I had a conversation a while ago, it was there back in the 60s. So this has been ongoing for a number of years, well, decades, in fact. And so with that in mind, we'd like to initiate some dialogue with MDOT reps and the members of these groups I've pointed out here. And I thank you very much for your time in this regard. Thank you.
Guys, the second thing we want to talk about tonight is we've outlined some improvements that we'd like to recommend for this specific part of Martin Luther King Jr. Drive and Highway 182 that sits between Long Street and Old West Point Road. Several organizations have come to us. Well, actually, we reached out to a few, and a few since then have reached back out to us, to the Beautification Committee, in support of these proposed improvements, including the Young Professionals, Starkville in Motion, Greener Starkville, and several of the local garden clubs and such. But the 9 points that we want to outline right now that we feel most strongly need attention are sidewalks on both sides of the highway, and eventually possibly a sidewalk that extends on the south side of 182 from Old West Point Road all the way to MSU campus. Paving, striping, curbing, and guttering from Long Street to Old West Point Road. Underground utilities, new street lights, bike lanes, crosswalks, trash cans, weekly sweeping by the city of Starkville, and landscaping that could possibly include plants, trees, public art, and a fountain. This plan is something that the Beautification Committee feels is probably past due, and from everybody else we've talked to in the community, they feel the same way, but it still needs to be addressed. Martin Luther King Drive in 182 is a major thoroughfare and one with historical significance and valuable heritage. Time for the city to make a concerted effort to revitalize this area is right now. And we thank you guys for the opportunity to present this proposal to you today, and we're hopeful that y'all will understand and see the need for such improvements to this great city that we all live in.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized very briefly?
You may.
Mr. Mayor, my colleagues on this board, I certainly want to appreciate Mr. Mullinax and Mr. Bounds for this report. This area certainly needs some revitalization, and hopefully, this board can perhaps budget some funds for these infrastructure improvements this upcoming budget year. And I certainly will support that. Infrastructure has been one of my big projects in this city, and this is well overdue, and hopefully we can give some priority to this, and this will certainly enhance this area and hopefully attract some businesses in this portion of our city. This part of the city is lacking businesses. Most of the businesses we're all aware is on Highway 12 and thereabout, and this is certainly some good planning and forethought, and I want to personally commend you all for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let's just don't worry about the city bringing up the money. There's a lot of money out there. We just don't know where it is, but there's grant writers and that I think can help in this regard, maybe particularly sidewalks and such as this. There's a lot of money out there, and the grant writers know where it is. So thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And ladies, I'm sorry, and ladies.
That's okay. Thank you.
Braxton, you're up.
All right, well, good evening. My name is Braxton, currently serving as president of the Student Association. I believe I've been here a few times and got to meet all of you. And with me is Ben Lewis. He's currently a cabinet member with the MSU Student Association. But today we're coming to y'all to request this year's Bulldog Bash being held within the city of Starkville, and also for the in-kind services which have been provided in years past. Bulldog Bash, as many of you know, is held in Starkville's very own Cotton District. It's currently the largest free event in the state of Mississippi, which is held right here in Starkville. Attracts tens of thousands of people to the city of Starkville, people not only from Mississippi, but also from Tuscaloosa, Auburn, other areas around the South. And it continues to grow. But it's made possible largely in part due to the 2% tax funds that are allocated to us, which Bulldog Bash receives, as you all know, $30,000 out of that. But also it's made possible in part by the fundraising that we, the Student Association, put towards that effort. And where in many years we match what is given to us, if not exceed it. So it's something that we care about, that we see benefiting not only the university, but the city as well. Because this event's not something that the university or the city can claim. It's largely made possible due to both entities. And it's something that both entities receive equal benefits from. And it's not only a recruiting tool for the university, but it's getting people into the city of Starkville, letting them see what we have to offer, and hopefully they're going to come back. But in order to have an event such as Bulldog Bash, an event that's known all throughout the Southeast region, it does require money. And every single bit that we can save helps us tremendously. And we can't tell you how much we appreciate all of you letting us have this event here in the city and helping us out with these in-kind services that you provide. and we would extremely appreciate your support and providing of the in-kind services for this upcoming year's Bulldog Bash. And I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have on the logistics of the concert or any questions in general that you may have.
Any board members have questions? Will we be listed as a sponsor perhaps?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's, I believe that our in-kind contribution is close to 10 grand.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I
Right.
apologize, I didn't do the addition for the board, it comes out to be approximately $9,998.66.
That's the reason I said $10,000, I believe.
That's $9,998.
About 10, yes.
And I believe that's the amount that's for a big-time sponsor, is that right? Did I read
Yes,
it?
sir.
Okay.
We have already received a title sponsor for this year.
Good. Do we hear any recommendations from the board?
Mr. Mayor, I would move that we continue the city's support of the Bulldog Bash event, a very good event held in the community, and we approve the in-kind sponsorship running approximately $10,000 of goods and services, as well as the street closure that
Yes, sir.
is usually requested. Yes, thank you.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you all very much.
Just as we're moving along very quickly here, it brings us down to the public hearing on the proposed repeal and replacement of the false alarm ordinance. Is there anyone here who would like to speak pro, for, or against, or whatever, if you had the opportunity to read the information pertaining to the alarm ordinance? Clark, do you want to say something?
Pretty much.
Well, let's hear from you again, so we'll at least have somebody to say something in a public hearing.
Well, I just hope the board will give some consideration to taking a look at this ordinance and try to accomplish the goals that need to be accomplished. The police chief, no argument can be made that we had a major problem prior to this ordinance being put into effect. I just believe that we need to try to come up with an ordinance that accomplishes that, but is more citizen friendly and more business friendly.
Do you feel like the proposed one that we presently are trying to replace it with answers some of those issues that you have?
I think it's moving in the right direction, but I sure would like to see.
It continually to be tweaked in the future, is that correct?
I really think so. And there were some incidents today, I don't want to go into the details, but there's just all these different isolated cases where it looks like to me the city is going out of its way to really upset some businessmen and some homeowners. And I just don't understand.
Well, the city's not trying to go out of its way to upset anybody. We'd like a very happy
Well,
city.
by keeping this ordinance enforced the way it is, that is what happens.
Would anyone else like to speak in regard to that? You have some questions? Yes.
I'm Diane Wall, and I do think there's great improvement in what you have. One thing that I would appreciate maybe the ordinance include as clarification is to make the citizen aware that on those first three warnings, they can talk to the police about them. Because when I tried to talk to the administrative hearing officer, she said it was not in your jurisdiction. And I believe that we had some citations that were really not false alarms, but the citizens don't know that they can go to the police after the fact and show them that it's not really a false alarm, so they would be taken off, and therefore they would have more warnings available. I think that'd be very helpful to the citizenry that they became aware of that. And if I'm wrong, I'd sure like to know.
Thank you. Ms. Brule, do you think we can continue to tweak a little bit before we pass this thing?
Well, I'm not quite sure how that tweaking would occur, Mr. Mayor. What we have done is made the changes so that it's a verifiable alarm. We've reduced the amount to the resident. We have reduced the amount to the business on the first alarm, which still gives him 3 false alarms and then 1 opportunity for a lesser fee before it goes to.
I'm not sure what it is that Mr. Pittman is exactly wanting, unless he's wanting introduced so far that it's no longer a deterrent, which he's already said that the ordinance itself has had great effect. If we take it out of effect now, I think it will probably revert to what it was before. I think it's a good ordinance. There are always mitigating circumstances, and I think people do want to discuss the issues with the police. Certainly, if they don't go to the police, they can come to the hearing officer. And with this ordinance, she can determine that there is a verification or a verified alarm based on circumstances, and then she can deal with it at her level. So I think there are multiple opportunities for these folks. Without this ordinance in place, then we still have the one in place now that is partial. So I would suggest we move forward with this one, and as we learn more, and as we determine that there are better ways to do it, we'll make those changes.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Shortly, please.
Real short. I agree with everything Lynn just said, but for the 30 years that I've lived in Starkville, we've never had an ordinance that was enforced.
Wait a
I would
minute.
suggest an alarm ordinance that was
Okay,
enforced.
let's clarify that.
And I would just suggest that as changes get made, and maybe they are quite drastic changes, let's put some kind of a barometer in there to come back before you guys in 6 months and a year and see what's going on. If she's right, she's right. She could be right.
Any other questions in regard to the public hearing? If not, I now call it closed. The next item we have on here is consideration of approval of the resolution updating the fine schedule for the administrative hearing officer. Do we have any discussion from the board in regard to that?
Mr. Mayor, if I might be recognized, I'd
You may.
move that we move item B and C, which is the approval of the resolution updating the fine schedule, as well as the repeal and replacement of the false alarm ordinance, to be referred to the Infrastructure Committee for review and revision, and to be presented back at the next board meeting on the 15th with recommendation.
Second.
Well, the motion is second. Are y'all gonna actually meet?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
That's
without
encouraging.
you.
Yeah. We have a motion with a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Got one nay then.
And Mr. Mayor, by light token, the Infrastructure Committee will be meeting next Tuesday at 4 o'clock for consideration of this matter, either in this room or the conference room, Ms. Tyndall, whichever is most easily available.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. E and F and G are on consent.
Excuse me a second. Chief Lindley, in that regard, would you please be there and be able to give us an update on what has occurred since the last time we talked, and about alarms, reduction, increase, all this type of thing? Ms. Pittman, you might want to be there also at this. Of course, it's an open meeting. Thank you.
Make sure I don't leave anything out. If you'll please move on the agenda to the office of the city clerk. Marquita, are you here? There you are.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. The item I have is going to be the claims docket for the claims that have been presented through June 27th. And I recommend that the board approve these claims after, of course, having been reviewed.
Move approval, Mr. Mayor, as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Thank you. Brings us down to engineering and streets, consideration of the adoption of a stop sign. Let me say something before we get in it. Go ahead and just have a sit down. Harry, I want to commend the library group for the new grant that y'all got. Seeing you kind of just prompted me to say that. That's quite a feather for the city.
Thank you, thank you.
We appreciate that.
We'll be talking more about that in the fall. What the mayor's talking about is a grant that just came to Starkville Reads to have a one community, one read program around. It's called Wild. We'll be having a lot of events and books and things, and that'll all be cranked up in the fall. But National Endowment for the Arts, extra small grant for that.
Mr. Mullinex will be excellent with the call of the wild, okay? Go ahead.
We'll take that under advisement.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. We have before you a stop sign implementation policy, and you may or may not want to act on this tonight. It's just a policy going forward on if a request comes up for a stop sign, to do a formal review and analysis to see if it's warranted based on the standard procedures in the manual for uniform traffic control devices. It also has in there a survey of the existing residents in the adjacent area to gauge their response on it, and then an accident report from the police department, and all those analysis will be brought before the board for your ultimate final decision.
Members have questions they'd like to ask of ever of this, or they have a recommendation for this consideration of adoption of a stop sign implementation policy?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we take this item up in the Infrastructure Committee at our next Tuesday's meeting and discuss it further with the city engineer and others.
Second.
We have a motion to take this up in the Infrastructure Committee meeting next Tuesday. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Thank you, Edward. Police Department, Chief, we want to talk about this,
Jail contract.
that's correct.
What I proposed is a contract with a private entity, which is North Atlantic Extradition Service, NAES. They have taken over formerly the Clay County Jail. It's now called the Clay County Detention Center. I'll be as succinct as I can, but basically for the last almost 3 years, there's been no space available to the city of Starkville on a regular basis at the Oktibbeha County Jail because of jail overcrowding and the number of prisoners that are being housed there. So we've had to resort to using other facilities in all the surrounding counties. Basically, what that means is we have to shop around until we find a jail that can take our prisoners. If you arrest someone at night, oftentimes the sergeant has to come and call until he can find a place to house prisoners. And that takes them off the street. Then once we find somewhere, the officer has to transport the prisoner to wherever we find, Eucora, Webster, Choctaw, Winston. We've had prisoners, I think, as y'all have noted in here, as far away as Monroe, Grenada, Lee, and Inawamba counties. Now, you can imagine what that's doing to us on overtime, manpower, and certainly fuel. Some of the jails vary in price from $25 up to $35. I think the most expensive that we use currently is Grenada. They charge $36.50 per day per prisoner. If we could use the Oktibbeha County Jail, certainly that would be ideal because they've charged us $25 a day per prisoner. However, that's not to be expected anytime soon, and I'll give you an example. During the April term, the Oktibbeha County Circuit Court, the Sheriff's Department, and I spent most of the afternoon with Sheriff Bryan discussing a lot of this. During the month of April, that term of circuit court, they had to house prisoners in Grenada, which is a private facility, at $36.50 a day. And the total cost to the Sheriff's Department for housing county and state prisoners, unbudgeted, was $39,592 for one term of court. They can't even keep their own prisoners, much less ours. Subsequently, what we've done is we've tried to locate a place that will house our prisoners on a regular basis where we're not jail shopping. And we have succeeded in finding a private jail due to the fact that the Clay County, formerly the Clay County Sheriff's Department, Clay County Jail has now been taken over by NAES. And they're running it as a private subsidy. they have agreed to take our prisoners for 30 hours a day, which is what we're spending now at Winston and a couple of other places that we primarily use, like Lowndes. For $35 a day, they will provide all transport. They will bring all our prisoners to court. They will bring all our prisoners back to court. They will keep a guard here with the prisoners during court. They will come get our prisoners as we arrest them during the day or night. So we've just eliminated all transport, all overtime, all manpower shortages. And if we know that our prisoners are in one location, which is Clay County, and we know that we've got a certain number of prisoners there, then they bring these prisoners to us, to jail, at the reported time for court, which is saving us quite a bit of money on overtime, fuel, transportation. In addition to this, the private jail there is accredited nationally. They provide some medical coverages that we don't currently have. They are capable and willing to hold troubled or problem-making prisoners, which most other jails won't. If you have somebody giving them a hard time, they'll make us come get them, and they won't have anywhere to put them. And we've had a very active year, prolific, if you will, on numbers of arrests and violations. We have already exceeded our projected budget on prisoner subsistence. We are currently in the hole. We budgeted this year $130,500. We're currently $25,000 in the hole, and we still have a quarter of the year left as far as the budgetary year. If we go with the contract, which is a 3-month trial contract that I proposed through the end of this fiscal year, for that $35 a day, it will ensure us the jail space we need, which is 15 beds. Now, we actually need more than that on a continuing basis, but I think if we have an officer here in the police department coordinate, we can, almost like a hotel consigliere, we can rotate people in and out and keep it under 15. And that's how bad it is. So in 2006, to give you an example, we budgeted $190,000. $190,400, and we actually spent that on jail subsistence. Now, we were able to do a number of things in 2007, like house misdemeanor arrest program, which was unheard of in this state, increased the work program, and we cut our prisoner expenses. But our number of arrests are continuing to go back up. And so in spite of the fact that we were able to cut it from 190 to about 127,000, it looks like what we're going to have to do is go back to our 2006 level of funding in this upcoming fiscal year. But I would like to try this on a temporary basis for the next 3 months to see how it works. And then if it looks like it's okay, then I suspect we're going to end up doing it for the next fiscal year. And I think we can handle it at the 06 funding. Now, Dolph and I talked about the fact, and this is actually getting into more than y'all want to hear tonight, but for next year's budget, if we were over 15 in jail and we needed to house somebody else, hopefully by that time we'll have at least 2 or 3 spaces available to us here where we could house overnight in our own jail and bond out the next morning. But to say we're in a difficult situation right now is pretty much an understatement. Currently, right now, we are, well.
So bottom line here, this will recognize a significant savings in overtime and other expense.
Yes, sir. It should eliminate all overtime on prisoner transportation. It should eliminate all fuel costs. One thing I might add is during the month, I think it was April, we spent almost $4,000 on transportation and prisoner costs. So I think this is the way to go. I think this will eventually save us money, even though right now I don't have the money to cover it, and it's going to have to come from general fund. I mean, I'll do the best I can to handle it in my budget, but my budget is already over on overtime because of all the activities, and you know, we'll do the best we can, but I'm afraid some of this is going to have to come out of general fund.
Do we have questions for anyone on the board?
just a couple comments first about the budget. In our last budget amendment, we added 50,000 out of the general fund to cover that overage. So,
Thank you.
but your point is absolutely right that we were well over, and I think you're being generous when you say 2006 levels, because it really undercounts the overall cost. This is just the bill we get from those other facilities.
Right.
It doesn't count your overtime and your
Right,
fuel.
that's correct.
And those type of things. So I know we talk about this as $35 a day, but they charge us for those beds whether we use them or not. Is that?
That's correct. And what we need to do there is realize that on any given day, we need more prisoners than that actually in jail. Here's what we're doing now. Since you asked the question, I really appreciate you doing it. We have people right now that are on the house arrest program that are in violation of it. The judge sentences them to house arrest. They're supposed to go home and stay and be monitored. They're not staying. We got people that we're releasing on summons to come to court to avoid locking them up. They're not coming. We got people that are supposed to pay their fines. They're not paying. About a month ago, we suspended putting anybody in jail unless it was a violent felony. And for 1 month now, we have been summoning, bonding out, releasing on recognizance, and doing everything we could to eliminate jail costs. And for almost 30 days now, we hadn't put anybody in jail hardly at all. Now it's starting to, that's a Band-Aid on a cut. And everybody's realizing now that we can't put anybody in jail because there's nowhere to put them. And there are a lot more people in 15 that need to be in jail on a regular, continuing basis because we've got so many people that are just not going to fulfill their obligations to the court. And the way we're going to work it, I think, is if we can set this base price, then I'm going to try and keep it at 15 and no more than that. And hopefully if we do have something more than that, it'll be here, and Dolph will make room for us for one night, for 2 or 3, and we're really going to have to put somebody on this every day, and it's going to almost be, just like I said, a hotel consigliere. I mean, just rooms in, rooms out. But that's where we are right now. And Tony Mulligan is here. He owns his company. He just started up about a year ago. I've known him for 25 years. He's a retired chief deputy from the Lowndes County Sheriff's Department. He runs a good organization. He's got an accredited jail. They have a doctor on staff. They have a nurse on staff. It keeps us from having to go get prisoners that are sick because they can look at them there in the jail. This has so many benefits to it for what we're paying. It's just really a great deal. And besides that, when it takes us out of the transport business, one of the things that's always scared me is a city of Starkville car taking a city of Starkville prisoner 30 to 50 miles outside the jurisdiction, wreck, escape, any one of a number of things. And we already had one incident where a city of Starkville prisoner was in the Winston County Jail, got sick. We took that prisoner to a medical facility in Louisville. The prisoner escaped out a window at the doctor's office. You had a city of Starkville police officer chasing a city of Starkville prisoner down the street of Louisville with no jurisdiction, complete liability problems. And we were just out there hanging. Had to call Louisville PD, Winston SO. We eventually caught the person after a massive manhunt, but I don't want to be in that position, y'all. I don't think y'all want to be there either. And this will eliminate that. But currently, we just don't have jail space.
Should we be, as taxpayers in the city, wondering why we don't have space in the Oktibbeha County Jail that we pay for?
Well, okay. In 1988, there was a study done that proposed a $6 million jail. And it would have been a jail that could have served us for the next 40 to 50 years. A very kind gentleman of means, who was Mr. L.E. Spruill, was going to donate the land to the county in the Spruill Industrial Park. We were gonna build a facility there. Mr. Bill Webb, the city engineer, sat on an advisory board and study group that went and did a study on analysis of how big a jail we needed and how big it needed to be, and it would cost $6 million. It went to a referendum and failed because the people said it wasn't centrally located downtown, it cost too much, and it was too big. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Subsequently, we spent $1.5 million, and we built the jail we're currently in. Within 1 year, that jail was full, and we were actually repopulating the old jail across the street that had been vacated the year before. That was 15 years ago. And it's been getting worse ever since. And now we're at the same crisis point that we were in 1988, 20 years ago.
Thank you, David. Do we have a motion on this?
David, what you are proposing is a 3-month trial, are you not?
Correct, yes, sir. And if it works as well as I hope it will, then we will try this for the remainder of next year.
Now, will this be a 3-month trial at a proportionate lump sum of what is proposed in the general contract that was furnished?
It's going to amount to about $16,000 thereabouts a month for 15 beds a day, every day. And right now, with the people that we've got in arrears and in contempt of court, we could use 45 beds a day, but 15 is what we're gonna do. We're gonna get the worst offenders. But we anticipate having 15 in every day from perpetuity.
I would move, excuse me.
Just one, there was in the contract, it said transport 3 days a week to our municipal court.
Right, we have court 3 days a week, which is Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but they also will transport prisoners as we arrest them. They will actually come and get them. See, they have vans and jailers and transport officers on staff. This is a wonderful.
The trial, the 3-month trial proposal as has been outlined, and the city attorney will need to draw an appropriate contract for that trial period between the city and...
Actually, we sent Mr. Faber a contract that he's looked over, and, you know, if it's okay with him or whatever, but I actually had the opportunity to go and get them to draft one and send it to him on Friday, and he's looked it over.
For the 3 month?
Correct.
Okay.
We'll have to.
Which was not the one in our packet.
Yes, okay, very good.
But this one is the general one that
We
intend to use.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Chief, real quick.
Yes, sir.
How soon can they move in?
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Ms. Boyd,
Okay.
the items on public services
Ms.
are...
Mayor, excuse me.
Yes.
And Ms. Tyndall, inherent in that was, of course, as always, authorization for the mayor to sign the contract on behalf of the city.
All right, Ms. Boyd.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Alderman. I came to you this afternoon, or this evening, requesting authorization to accept the lowest and the best bid from MacPac Mac Corporation in the amount of $38,835, and that's for the gravel truck, part of the gravel truck. The gravel truck, apparently, everyone didn't know, comes in 3 different parts. There's the chassis, there's the limb loader, the knuckle boom, and then there's the dump truck that goes with it. That's what completes a gravel truck.
I think the question that was raised this afternoon is, who puts all this together?
Pack back in Bay Springs, Joe Moss's department. The chassis is delivered from Bruce, which we got from the best bid, but we got our state contract. The chassis we did from Bruce Underwood in Memphis, Tennessee, and I'm sorry, in Tupelo. And Joe, he and Joe are gonna get together and they're gonna put it together.
the chassis delivered to Holmac or
Yes,
Pac-Mac, and
yes,
they
sir.
mount the
Yes, sir.
grabber on the chassis.
Yes, sir.
And you have personnel to operate this rig already?
Yes, sir. The same personnel that's operating, basically the non-conforming rubbish now.
See. Okay. Are there other questions by any of the board members?
Is this diesel or gas?
It's diesel, but it does have the motor in it, with the emissions requirements for the 2008 emissions, yes.
Do we have a motion?
This is in your budget?
Yes, sir. Line item,
Pieces.
I just say in my cash ending balance budget. Line item 022333990. I have that in my budget, a cash ending balance.
We have an ending fund of roughly around 300,000, and so this.
$315,000.
Anyone interested in making a motion?
You might review for the board the advantages of such a piece of equipment. What will it do for us? What will it save? In
Basically,
good summary fashion.
it would help us, the sanitation department, do our job as far as picking up the non-conforming. In the other packets I had given out, we have the limb loader that we have and the truck, which is like a 20-yard bed truck. They're both 20 years old, international trucks, vehicles, the limb loader and the truck. And we need something to operate in order to continue to pick up the non-conforming rubbish that's out there. Any more questions? We do, like I said, we have the personnel for that. They're picking up non-conforming as you know, right now. But we need something that's reliable in case of a storm. People are cutting down a lot more things than they normally cut down this time of the year. Mr. Sturdy's doing his job, but we have the responsibility, direct from you all, to pick up the non-conforming. And we must have the proper equipment in order to do that.
The 20-year-old stuff is not
No,
functioning?
sir. No, sir. It's, I wouldn't depend upon that if something happened really big or what, I wouldn't depend upon it. Wouldn't depend upon it.
Given the status of the sanitation budget, you anticipate ending the fiscal year with that ending fund balance. It will not have been used up in other line items?
And other line items, I believe we made some amendments to the budget. At this time, like I said, we have roughly around $300,000, $315,000 beginning with that before the amendments were made. We do have the monies for this. I would like to say that Bruce Underwood, who's with the state contract, where I got the chassis from the state contract, is stating that in September, the prices will be going up, which everything goes up. But this is the best time to purchase now, the chassis for this vehicle.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask one question? Be recognized?
Yes, go ahead, Roy.
Ms. Boyd, is this equipment absolutely necessary?
If we have, in order to do our job as you all have directed, Vice Mayor, it is.
So the 20-year equipment is just functionless?
It is functionless to the point where, I'll say, driving through your neighborhood, you wouldn't want the 90-yard truck in your neighborhood because everything's falling out and the bottom's about gone in it.
I might add that one of the issues I read today, that steel prices are looking to go up to equivalent to where Ford and GM are expecting to lose around the neighborhood of about $2 billion in the cost of producing cars and trucks and other issues like that. And as Ms. Boyd pointed out, the price of steel is going up significantly for these types of items. For what it's worth.
I move to make the purchase.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Thank you, Ms. Boyd.
Thank you very much, sir.
It brings us down to the executive session to go into closed session to discuss pending litigation and other items as such.
The passage of time. We have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your healthcare needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in healthcare.